Hey there, and welcome to Ask Time number 24, in which we have two emails, one from Matt, one from Holland to go over. We have a question from Dawn, which is a comment on a video, and two questions actually from Jay, and one comment that we want to talk about from Aproperlady. So with that said, let's get started. I'm really excited because I'm finally feeling like myself again after that cold I had. So yeah, as always, nothing is medical advice here, just general thoughts and comments I hope will be helpful to you and anyone else that's tuning in. All right, with that said, let's read this email from Matt that came in 3 days ago. Hi Daniel, thank you in advance for taking this email. I'm currently struggling with insomnia, sleep onset that started about 6 weeks ago. Around 3 weeks ago, for anyone not familiar, sleep onset is like when you have trouble predominantly like falling asleep in the beginning of the night, as opposed to sleep maintenance when you fall asleep pretty easy, but you wake up and then it's hard to fall back asleep. So just a little clarification there. Around 3 weeks ago, I learned about CBTi, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and have been working to implement the techniques. After a series of consecutive poor nights, 2 to 3 hours per night, I started taking medication, Zolpidem, half to 3/4 of 10 milligrams 3 nights ago, which has helped. I maintained my sleep window, 5.5 hours, through this time, ensuring I always rise at the same time. Sleep window, for those of you who are not familiar with that terminology, is like you give yourself an opportunity to sleep, which is, relatively speaking, narrow. Like Matt, in this case, in this example, shows 5.5 hours, which means that, let's say he gets up at 5:30 in the morning. That means he doesn't go to bed before midnight, so he has a 5.5 hour sleep window. Now, he says, my question is, am I sabotaging any progress I may make with CBTi by taking the medication, ? Success for me means reducing my anxiety around sleep and falling asleep naturally without medication. I know that once I get my confidence back, I'll be all right. I'm concerned that I may simply be trading physical anguish, lack of sleep, for mental anguish, taking the medication. Your thoughts are appreciated, Matt. First of all, Matt, I want to say thank you. Thank you really, really so much for reaching out. I always want to, start with things that I find are encouraging, positive, because the process of getting towards a place of good sleep can feel like hopeless and daunting. So we really have to hold on to any little positives, anything encouraging, like really blow that up and make that work for us. That can become our tailwind that helps us in this process, which is not an easy one. Now, one thing that I see here is, you've had trouble sleeping about 6 weeks. 6 weeks started about 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks is a very long time to have trouble sleeping. 3 nights is a long time, But that said, it is very different compared to somebody that's had trouble sleeping for like 15 years or 20 years. That person has, often has like an identity problem, quote unquote, there, meaning they've started feeling like insomnia is just who they are. It's almost like people expect them to have trouble sleeping. It's almost like if they don't have trouble sleeping, then who are they? Stuff like that, which makes it really hard. So you have an advantage here. 6 weeks is comparatively not that long. That works in your favor. It may not feel like that's a huge moment of celebration right now, but that's really important. That's good. That's good. It's really, really good. And you have found CBTi, also very good. Few people find CBTi and go through all kinds of rabbit holes that make things worse. So that's another positive, really, really good. And now another really good one is like your insight here. Your question is, am I sabotaging any progress I may make with CBTi by taking medication? That is such an insightful question. And I think you're onto something there. I think it is very difficult to really build sleep confidence when you are taking a medication. I really believe that, and so let's expand on that. So if someone has taken medication for many years and they feel like they've been doing pretty good on that medication, then but then they have trouble sleeping, and now they're still taking medication but they can't sleep, then I feel like that person may do best by just continuing taking medication and kind of like work on their CBTi until things are more predictable and they start feeling more confident about their sleep, and then they can come off that medication. And one thing that's really important for them is to know that, and for you too, Matt, this is important for everyone really, is that medications do not produce sleep. They cannot. It's biologically, physiologically impossible for a medication to make you sleep. And it may not seem like that. In your case, Matt, you started taking some Zolpidem and you feel like, that made you sleep some more. Well, indirectly, that very well may have happened, but it doesn't produce sleep. And so what does it really do? Well, medications actually do the same thing as counting sheep, and I'll explain why in a second. But first, I want to go over something that I often go over, but I think it's extremely important. Even if you heard this before, you may not have fully kind of, internalized all the aspects of this model that makes it so good. So let's go over the gas and brake model. Okay. So sleep is super simple. It is not complicated. There are only these two things that really play a big role, and that's our gas and our brake. Now, the gas in our sleep system is our sleep drive. It is our body's need for sleep. Check this out. Sometimes I ask people in clinic, like, what do you do to become hungry? And people go like, well, I don't know, really, I don't know. And that's kind of exactly what I'm going for there. You don't have to do anything to become hungry. You just don't eat. And as the longer you fast, the more hungry your body will make you. And then you will want to really eat. Same thing with sleep. The only thing that can make you have that strong sleep drive, a body that really yearns for sleep, wants to sleep, is to stay awake. Wakefulness is the only thing that produces sleep. So that's our gas, okay? Sleep drive, our body's need for sleep, is our gas in our system, okay? Then we have the brake in our system, which is hyperarousal. That is like being anxious, preoccupied, worried, or excited about something. That kind of heightened level of emotion, or that kind of heightened alertness level, is the brake. So we have a gas sleep drive, we have the brake hyperarousal, and check this out. So if you have a strong sleep drive but no brake in our system, guess what? You're gonna sleep amazing. Okay. If you have like a lot of hyperarousal but you're not sleepy at all, guess what? You're not gonna sleep at all. You're gonna have minimal. You're not gonna have any sleep. If you're neither sleepy or hyperaroused, you're not gonna sleep either. This is a common one. The most common one probably is like you do have some sleep drive, but you have a lot of hyperarousal too. This creates insomnia. You may fall asleep, but then the hyperarousal kind of wakes you up again, and you have fragmented sleep. You're in and out, blah, blah, blah. These things are kind of fighting each other. Now, why am I going through this model right now? Well, it's because we're talking about medication. Nothing can like increase your sleep drive and make you sleep. Medications cannot make you sleep, but they can do things over here. They can kind of numb your senses, sedate you, so that this hyperarousal feels less, you just feel it less. You become numb. You don't have that hyperarousal, so you don't feel the hyperarousal so much, and that kind of allows your body to sleep then. Okay, so medications cannot make you sleep, but they can kind of numb that hyperarousal, which is, by the way, exactly what you do when you're counting sheep, or white noise, or counting down from 100 in steps of 7. All that stuff is just to kind of like shift your attention to like take away some of the hyperarousal and allow your body to sleep. So for you, Matt, something very practical here is like these last days when you have taken Zolpidem and slept more, guess what? That was your body. Your own body produced every single microsecond of sleep that you had was produced by your own body. So let that, grow that sleep confidence. And so to answer your question, yeah, I think when somebody has like trouble sleeping, they're trying CBTi, didn't really work, they take some Zolpidem, they start to sleep better. It is really, really hard to do the kind of mental gymnastics I'm asking you to do. And what I mean by that is like you take a medication, you sleep better, but you tell yourself it had nothing to do with the medication to boost your sleep confidence. Like if you can do that mental gymnastics and still believe in yourself, kind of disregard the fact you're taking medication, know that your body built that sleep, that's great, but it's really hard. And the thing with medications is that if somebody is like, I'm going to exercise today, and they kind of hoping that the exercise will make them sleep, that's not good. That's kind of sleep effort. But if somebody else is like, I love exercise, I'm going to do that because it's so fun, that's great. That takes thoughts away from sleep, and that can really help. But my point here is that something like exercise you can have different intents with it. It's not always a sleep effort, but a medication you don't take a medication to enjoy it for the taste, for the experience, anything like that. The only reason you take a sleep medication is to make you sleep, which makes it really hard to avoid losing sleep confidence when it appears that it makes you sleep. So I felt that was kind of maybe a long-winded answer, but I think this was an important one to answer that question, Matt. Now, success for me means reducing my anxiety around sleep and falling asleep naturally. That's great. That's a good goal to have. And I just want to go back to, you said like after a series of consecutive poor nights, 2 to 3 hours per night. It's very hard not to count how much you sleep, but it's always good to try. To really move away from the objective and into the subjective. Just like go to bed here, get up this time, and then if you track anything, I really now believe it's best to track like how do I feel, how much did I struggle, and things of that nature, rather than like how much did I sleep. But another thing here is that CBTi takes a lot of time. It's not easy, but it's super effective. And I guess I'm just going to want to add one more thing here, Matt, which is if we approach CBTi as we do sleep medications, or that's a sleep mask or something like that, meaning we judge how effective it is by how much it makes us sleep, then it becomes a sleep effort. Then it's like, I've done CBTi for 3 weeks now, I'm still not sleeping anymore, I'm going to keep going. The week 4, still not better. It's important to know that CBTi is simply a way of like setting the stage, like kind of like increasing the likelihood of you sleeping, but nothing makes you sleep. And so the best thing with CBTi is to approach it as this like set it and forget it thing. Like you learn things in the beginning, it's great. Watch these videos or read or learn about it, that's great. But once you feel like you understand why you have insomnia, you understand what insomnia is, etc., then it's really good to do the set it and forget it. Meaning you do have a set wake up time, you get up the same time every morning, you don't spend a lot of time in bed, maybe 5.5, maybe 6, maybe 6.5, something like that number of hours. And apart from that, you go in the direction of, I'm going to go on a whale safari. I'm going to go on a whale safari, or I'm going to start baking, or I'm going to start playing the trombone or something like that, to shift your attention away from sleep. That is really, truly the path. Yeah. Okay, Matt, stay in touch. Let us know how you do. I'm sure you're going to have follow-up questions. It is a bumpy road, so just, please share them with us. Okay. Now, we have a follow-up question from Holland. And Holland has sent a question here in February, and then there was a follow-up here 3 days ago. Let's read this. Hi, Daniel. Hope you're feeling better. I am. Thank you. I'm feeling better. So happy about that. I've been sticking with the CBT, and I have seen some improvements. I want to celebrate the fact that I've fallen asleep right away for more than a week now! Exclamation mark. That is great. That's great. But my brain has seemed to redirect its attention to waking up during the night now. I was so stressed about falling asleep initially, I didn't pay so much attention to the night wakings, but now my brain seems fixated on it, which is, of course, making it worse. There have been a few nights I do go back to sleep easily, but a good chunk I wake up after 3 or 4 hours and can't fall back asleep. Is my change in worry focus like this normal? And any good tips on what to do when I become aware of being awake in the middle of the night? Yeah, absolutely. Have some thoughts here. So first of all, yeah, I've seen this quite a number of times. Someone has like sleep maintenance insomnia and then it turns to sleep initiation insomnia, or vice versa. And I think a kind of general point there is that, and this is if you're still tuning in here, um, whether you have trouble falling asleep or trouble staying asleep, they're really the same thing. It's just like Holland puts it here, the worry focus has been different. Like if somebody's really worried about falling asleep, then that becomes the big problem. If somebody wakes up and then starts worrying about staying asleep, then that becomes the problem. But they're both from the same. They're both caused by hyperarousal. For sure. They're both caused by hyperarousal. There's nothing really different between them except how they manifest. And yeah, so question, is this normal? Yeah, this is very normal, very typical, nothing unusual about the switch here. Now, any good tips on what to do when I become aware of being awake in the middle of the night? Yeah, I definitely have a kind of set of things that I think are important when this happens. Number one is you have to have kind of an acceptance approach, meaning if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're not willing to accept that, meaning you're like, dang it, I'm up, now I'm gonna make myself fall asleep. I gotta find a way to make myself fall back asleep because just can't be up right now. I'm gonna just lay here and focus on, like, I'm gonna shut my brain off. I'm gonna think of nothing until I fall asleep. Doesn't work. Go back to where we talked before, gas and brake. You can't just magically increase the gas. And also, you can't kind of force yourself to become less stressed. That cannot work. You cannot force yourself to sleep. So, and that may seem kind of like, oh, that's discouraging. No, it's not. It's empowering. This is very good information because it keeps you from having more trouble sleeping, which you will have if you try to like do something to make yourself sleep. That's number one. Number two, having a game plan is super important. What happens so often is that someone wakes up in the middle of the night and then starts deliberating and contemplating and thinking about what to do. Yesterday I did this, but it didn't work. That other day did not. Should I get out of bed? Should I stay? Should I read? Should I, that is a problem. So you have to have a game plan. You have to be like, if I wake up, I'm going to do this. If I wake up, I'm going to do this. And I think that this, you can decide what that is, but I think a really good this is this, which I'm going to talk about now, which is the following. You wake up and you have the sense that it's not a brief awakening. You wake up and you're kind of very alert, okay? Then you can take a mental journey to some really pleasant space. You can see if it comes easy to you to think about, when you were a child, or that time you had a great vacation, or something you look forward to, something like that. And then you can just stay in bed and like think about something pleasant. That means you are not that hyper aroused. You can distract yourself, which means you're probably going to fall back asleep. Just stay in bed. Now, if that does not come easy to you, if you're lying in bed and you're like, I'm trying to think about Hawaii, but it's not happening, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, and a little bit angry, then you have to do something, And when I say do something, you have to do something that shifts your attention away from, your wakefulness. And you can, it doesn't matter, actually, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what that is, as long as it's something that is at least neutral. Even better is enjoyable, meaning you could pick up a book and read. You could listen to a podcast. You can check out a Netflix show. You could do some dishes. You could, do something creative. You could like draw or something like that. As long as you enjoy it, or it's like at least neutral, And I say that that's really important because when people pick up like I'm going to read a super boring book, then they're trying to make themselves sleep. Then they're trying to like the boringness of the book they're hoping will make them sleep doesn't work. That goes back to acceptance. You have to accept that you can't force yourself to sleep. That's gonna backfire, you know. And a lot of people then go like, well, if I start reading, then I'm for sure not gonna sleep because I'm gonna get really into this book. Yep, you know, I understand that. I understand that. But when people say that, I always go, well, that illustrates the problem. You have this fear of losing sleep. And it's completely understandable, but that fear of losing sleep, the unwillingness to have insomnia, is why you continue to have trouble sleeping. If you were completely fearless, you know, if you didn't face you at all, if you're going to lose some sleep, guess what? Your hyperarousal would be so low that you would sleep great. So that's just a little comment on that. Don't have fear. Don't have fear of losing sleep, because then you're going to lose more sleep. So you just got to do things that you enjoy. That shifts your tension. That's that one. And what else? You know, sometimes people say, if I leave the bed, when should I go back to bed? You know, just listen to your body. When you feel like kind of like your kind of eyelids are heavy, you're kind of dozing off. Yep, it's time to go to bed again. And I felt, yeah, I want to add one more thing, which I've been thinking so much about lately. I want to kind of sneak this one in here. You know, you said, I want to celebrate the fact that I've slept right away for 1 week, but your brain seemed to redirect its attention to waking up. This is the whole thing about redirecting the brain. This is something I'm probably going to talk more about. And it is this one. Like, we as human beings are like, you know, we default to look at negatives. Like, we look for problems. That's who we are. That's genetic. Like, you know, if you, hello, you know who, how are you? We as kind of like, if from an evolutionary perspective, you know, it makes sense, because when we were living out there in the wilderness, we had to look out for problems, you know, and we still do that. And I'm going to give a quick example. And you know who? I'm good. I'm just, you know, answering questions here. Hope you're good. So yes, back to that one. And that thing plays out here too in everyday life. Meaning, if your spouse doesn't, you know, put her dishes in the dishwasher, you're like annoyed. You're like, that's a problem. We have to work on this problem. I have to tell her again, right? But if she does it for 4 days straight, you're like, you know, is asking me questions. I'm a sleep expert, so I'm answering questions for people that have trouble sleeping. So if you have trouble sleeping, anything of that nature, please ask me a question. So going back to that analogy, you know, the absence of I'm laughing here because you know who is like, oh shit, I need this. All right. The absence of problems really you know, passes us by without us noticing it. And that place, and what happens then is that we often feel like our lives are just filled with problems, issues, things to work on, to resolve. And if we could kind of redirect our brains, if we could redirect our brains to see, like, to celebrate the absence of a negative, like, you know, that time where my spouse like always that time where my spouse like always fed the dishwasher, I celebrate that, I focus on that, I make it a big deal, and then like disregard any kind of problem, then the way you look at life is going to change. And that applies so much to sleep too. If you can redirect your brain to see positives, identify positives, celebrate positives, like, you know, and ignore negatives, you're going to start feeling like you actually sleep pretty damn good. And that really will help you. All right. So, you know who asks, I'm a light sleeper and I wake up to very little sound. What can I do to stop this? That's a very good question. And here's the thing with that is we all actually wake up a lot. You know, if you look at a sleep study where you have like somebody's EG, like brainwaves monitored, you see that most people wake up good like 10, 15 times. But people that have no trouble sleeping, they're like, they kind of wake up, roll over, fall back asleep again, and they don't even remember having woken up. So when you're light, you know, a lot of people are like, I'm such a light sleeper, the tiniest sound, it wakes me up and then I can't fall back asleep. I'm almost like, The problem was actually not that you woke up. The problem is that you then it took you a long time for you to fall back asleep. So the important point here becomes, don't focus on, like, the neighbor's cat, or, like, the highway, or, like, the little noise that woke you up. That is not the problem. That's not the problem. It is the fact that you are not falling back asleep that is the issue. So then you may ask, like, so how am I going to do that? Well, the key, I think, if this happens a lot and you have very light sleep, you wake up a lot and you have trouble sleeping a lot, I think you should spend less time in bed. You do the classic thing I talk a lot about here, which is called bedtime restriction, or spending less time in bed. So you get up early every day, same time every day. Let's say 6 a.m. and you go to bed pretty late, like say 11:30 or something like that. So you're really sleepy when you go to bed. And then guess what? Even if that neighbor's cat wakes you up, then you're like, oh, that's annoying, but you fall back asleep. So that's the key one, is to make sure you're kind of sleepy enough when you go to bed. And guess what? When you start feeling sleeping through, then you have like more sleep confidence. You're not so worried more about waking up, etc. And then you can spend more time in bed, because even if you wake up, you're just like, I woke up, whatever, go back to sleep. So that's a good one there. Okay. Who's asking more questions here? But have you not heard of sleep break? It's not good for the sleep cycle. I have not heard about sleep break, but I think I understand what it means. It's like, you're supposed to have this cycle, right? You're supposed to have, like, first some slow wave sleep, and then some stage 2 sleep, and then REM sleep, and then you complete a 90-minute cycle, and it starts over again. Nobody sleeps like that in real life. That sleep cycle thing is just a myth, really. It's a textbook thing. In reality, people cycle in all kinds of ways. People have some REM sleep in the beginning, then they go to stage 2, then they see, so I want to echo something a sleep expert, what's his name, Michael Granner, said, that I thought was really good. He said, to worry about your sleep stages is like worrying about the composition of, like, gases in air. Like, how much I don't know, really how ignorant I am, but how much the carbon dioxide and how much oxygen and how about nitrate or whatever is there in the air. We don't know, and we can't do anything about it. And it doesn't actually affect us. Like, we breathe well in Australia and in Nepal too. So yeah, I want to say those sleep breaks, sleep stages, they are not important at all. Actually, they're not important at all when it comes to good sleep. So hope that will help. And yeah, with that said, let us move along here to Dawn, who asked this, which we kind of already talked about in this episode, I think. But Dawn, this is a comment on cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, the deep dive, that video where I talked to Martin and Michael. And he says this: what do you do if someone seems to have anxiety and it's related to high cortisol levels, especially at night fight or flight mode? Thanks, Dawn. This is one of those, a really good, quick, concise question that takes a lot to answer it, and so first of all, I want to say this one, like, people that have sleep anxiety and insomnia do have high cortisol levels, but it is not like that is the culprit. It is the result of the insomnia. It's the stress, the worrying, the preoccupation that creates those high cortisol levels. And then once you sleep better and you're not so stressed anymore, they go down, which I think is really important, because if you have this belief or thought that something is out of my control, my cortisol levels are just so high that it produces all this insomnia and stress, then guess what? Things feel truly hopeless. In that scenario, they would be hopeless, because how can you push down your cortisol levels? You can't do that. But that's not the case. And so there's no reason at all for hopelessness or worry here. It's just like, once you start working on your sleep, once you do the CBTi, you'll feel more confident, you'll not worry as much, your cortisol levels decrease, and that fight or flight mode goes away. Now, so what I mean by that, what are you supposed to do? Again, going back to the gas and brake here, which we talked about earlier in this episode, anxiety is part of this hyperarousal. Your brain is in this really hyper state, right? Now, if you could kind of get rid of that hyperarousal, you would sleep good. True, but it's really tricky to do. If you what a lot of people do are like, oh yeah, I'm so hyperaroused, so anxious, I got to do some meditation. Then they go meditate, but the intent of the meditation is to push down that hyperarousal, and that always backfires because people are meditating and they're like, I've been doing this for 35 minutes. Am I less stressed? No, I'm not. I'm going to go on. And the whole meditation process just highlights the problem of stress, which then becomes a bigger problem. So what to do is really, I believe, the working on the sleep drive, spending less time in bed, getting up early, going to bed later, having a strong sleep drive. That strong sleep drive can override the hyperarousal. You sleep even though you're stressed. You sleep even though you're in fight or flight, And guess what happens then? You're like, you start believing. This is when the magic happens. You're like, I can sleep. There's nothing wrong with me. There's no problem. Then that hyperarousal, the cortisol levels, the fight or flight goes away, and you start sleeping amazing. Dawn, I want to thank you so much for that question. I hope you find a lot helpful on this channel. Stay in touch. And if you have any follow-up questions, then please post them, of course. And then we have, let's see, we have a question from Aproperlady, who said this. I love what you said about, and this is a comment on Ask Daniel number 23. I love what you said about coming off of sleep medication when you build sleep confidence while on it. I've been wondering about this because my psychiatrist prescribed me gabapentin, which has worked great, but I've only been on it for a week. I think my biggest fear is that coming off of it, I will go right back to not being able to sleep because my anxiety in general is so high. So sleep is really difficult lately. Is it possible for your brain to forget how to sleep without the help of medication, or are things pretty much guaranteed to go back to normal pretty quickly? I'm not sure if this is an odd question. It's just one of those strange words I have. It's not an odd question at all. It's a very, very common question and a very good question. Partly because, all questions are great, but these questions that so many other people have too are especially good because the answer can hopefully help a lot of people. So let's start with answering that question. Is it possible for your brain to forget how to sleep without medication? No, it's not possible at all. Like, your brain literally cannot forget how to sleep. You cannot lose the ability to sleep. The sleep system in your brain is beyond robust. It's like untouchable. Nothing can ever break it. But it can be like messed with, if you will. And that's actually like, I don't. Some people are like, I did this to me, and like, why am I doing this to myself? It's not like anybody ever, made themselves have insomnia intently. So please don't take this that way. But the sleep system works perfect when we don't kind of tinker with it, And what I mean by tinker with it, it's like when we start believing that our sleep system is broken and we try to fix it, that's tinkering with it. That's when it's not working well. It works well when you don't have a single thought in your brain about your sleep. But when you start kind of tinkering with it, that's when it gets messed up. And so again, and those are things like when you're trying to figure out why you can't sleep, and you experiment with things, you try to make yourself sleep more, et cetera, et cetera. That's when it gets a little tricky for the sleep system. But where you want to go, you, Aproperlady, or anyone else, is like, you want to get to that state where you're like not trying to mess with it at all. You're just like you just not thinking about it at all. You just let it happen. Let the sleep system do its own thing. Anyway, so that was that question, and you said, yeah, a big fear is that when I come off, I'll go right back to not being able to sleep. I think what we already talked about here in this episode is so important. When I talk about building sleep confidence while on a medication, I really talk to people that have been on a medication for a long time, and you know, and are either doing good or not doing well, but they're kind of like they want to come off their medication. And so, what I want to say here is that if somebody has been on a medication for a long time, it's really good to start kind of transferring confidence from the medication to yourself by knowing and thinking about and highlighting and really emphasizing that medications cannot make you sleep. They're never, ever, ever, ever making you sleep. They reduce some hyperarousal, sure, but they're never making you sleep. So every minute you sleep is your own sleep. It's produced by your own body. Now, what I don't recommend anyone to do is to be like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep. Let me start taking this medication and then build sleep confidence while I'm on this medication and then come off the medication, because it's kind of like just like Matt's question from early in this episode. Like, I think it's so hard to start building sleep confidence as you start taking medication, because it's almost like impossible for you not to believe, or at some level believe, that the medication was the thing that made you sleep. And that's and that also goes towards like answering this other thing about you're really worried about if you come off the gabapentin that you're not going to be able to sleep. Well, that phenomenon is called like rebound insomnia, and it's a sleep confidence thing. If somebody stops taking their medication and then they can't sleep, that proves that that person had confidence in their sleep medication. And you know, you might wonder like, so why isn't it true though that the medication actually made them sleep, and when they stop taking it, they can't sleep because of the medication? It's not the chemicals. I firmly believe it's not the chemicals, and I've seen this a lot of times in clinic when somebody um, is on some kind of sleep medication and they're sleeping fine actually, and then you have the dose, they're sleeping fine, you have the dose, you sleep fine, and then you go into this microscopic, tiny microdose, right? And they're still doing good, but then that last step, they just can't take that last step. When they stop taking it completely, they have a lot of trouble sleeping, which shows that it's nothing to do with dosage, it's nothing to do with the chemicals, it's all about the beliefs. It's all about the beliefs. So if you're taking gabapentin, for example, and you have actually been successful in transferring confidence to yourself, you don't believe whatsoever that gabapentin is making you sleep. You sleep by yourself. Then you won't have any problem coming off gabapentin. But if your confidence has been shaken or eroded, you know, if you somehow deep down believe that the gabapentin is like making you sleep, then you might have rebound insomnia. It'll take a little longer to get back to sleeping on your own. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much, Aproperlady, for this question. Hang in there, and please answer. Come back with any other questions you have. And I think then, yeah, there's just two more questions here from Jay. And by the way, we have some really, really encouraging things to. It's funny, Jay. Literally, are you there, Jay? Are you tuning in here? In that case, I was just about to answer your question because Jay just sent me a message here saying, "Hello, I think you forgot about me," and asked dial number 24. No, I did not forget about you. Okay. First of all, there was a question about short sleepers. Where is it? Here is it. Sorry. Blah blah blah. Have you ever heard of a natural short sleeper? I came across this thing and something about a new study how some people can function on 45 hours of sleep. It's a genetic thing. I think I might have this. Oh, that's interesting. By the way, Jay, if you have that study, do send it to me. That seems to be, for once, a kind of reasonable study to publish. One that actually may help people. Yeah, natural sleeper, absolutely. I absolutely believe in that. And Brian, no, thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for your support, and I know I remember you subscribed the other day, and that means a lot. So thank you, Brian. Now, yeah, so natural short sleeper, is that a thing? Yeah, that's absolutely a thing. But it's a thing in a sense that it's like normal distribution. It's kind of like being like, do you think there are short people? Yes. Do you think there are tall people? Yes. Do you think there are people that have a shoe size, 12 and some that have a shoe size of 7? Yes. We are all different. Are some of us do great on like 5 hours of sleep. Some of us do great on 9 hours of sleep. We are all different. And those people that sleep a little and don't need much sleep are natural short sleepers. Those people that need sleep like 8 hours, yeah, those people, those outliers that need 8 hours of sleep, they are truly outliers. Actually, most people sleep about 6 hours. So those outliers sleep 8 hours are natural long sleepers. So that's definitely a thing, but it's just normal distribution. Yep. And now, then Jay asked, and Jay, by the way, just for quick review, was really concerned that he had this thing called fatal insomnia a couple of months ago. And most recently he said he had a sleep study. He slept 6 hours and 25 minutes, but he had mild sleep apnea. And he said somewhere here that he said, it feels amazing to have this fatal insomnia thing off my chest. That's amazing. I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this moment for so many months. Jay, I'm so excited. I'm super excited. It's one of the biggest fears I've faced in my life. I'm super happy about this, Jay. Super happy. And now, one last question here for today, which is, where is it? Okay. You can also comment if you think a sleep apnea machine makes a difference or not. And so it can. It totally depends. And so if somebody has like sleep apnea and they're symptomatic from their sleep apnea, somebody like snores a lot, they're choking in sleep, they wake up a lot of times. And by the way, sleep apnea, typical way to distinguish sleep apnea from insomnia is that sleep apnea is kind of these brief arousals, brief awakenings. Don't know why. Like I woke up, I don't know why, fell back asleep, woke up again, fell back asleep. Versus insomnia, it's like I woke up and I was up. I was nervous, like stressed, excited, like emotional response, which you don't really have with sleep apnea most of the time, at least. And so if you have like kind of classic sleep apnea, you're sleepy during the day, you wake up a lot at night, you're snoring, you're choking, etc. CPAP machines are great. I have so many patients that love their CPAP machines, do so good on them. And on the flip side, if you have kind of like mild sleep apnea or even moderate or severe sleep apnea that doesn't affect you, that you have it, but you actually sleep pretty good without it, then the CPAP machine probably won't make a difference. But here's the thing with CPAP machines, in my opinion, if someone is not sleeping great and they have sleep apnea, you oftentimes, it doesn't hurt to try one. You can try it and see if it makes you feel better, significantly better, then you can go on, keep using it. If it doesn't help, then you may not use it or so. So it on the page. It's from person to person. All right, cool. It's been really fun today. I'm again so happy. I'm feeling good again. And if anybody out there has a question, then please leave a comment or send an email, daniel@insomnia.co, and I shall be back here on Monday answering questions, and we shall go from there. Bye-bye.